In this video, we are going to discuss the geometry challenger questions. So, we will be discussing 21 questions overall in the challenger section. And in this video, entire concepts, all the chapters that we have discussed so far, that is lines, triangles, quadrilaterals, coordinate geometry, circles, and all other chapters which involve geometry will be discussed in this video. The questions that we will be discussing will have the application of multiple chapters. So I hope you are watching this video after completion of the basic as well as the advanced level for all the geometry chapters that we have discussed so far. So let's start with the questions one by one. A bouncing ball is traversing a semicircular path of 0.7 meters. After every bounce, the ball traverses with a constant speed. From the point at which the ball bounces for the first time, there are laser beams placed 1 meters apart at a height of 0.5 meters from the ground. There are 20 such laser beams. The ball passes above each laser beam or below it or through the beam. Assume that the path and the speed of the ball does not change if it passes through the laser beam. Find the number of times the ball passes above the laser beam. And secondly, we are asked how many times does the ball pass below the laser beam. So let's solve this question. Firstly, I have drawn a diagram of the trajectory of the ball that is traveling over here. So if the ball is starting to bounce at this point, it is covering a semicircular path of radius 0.7 meters. Hence the entire distance that the ball will cover in one go will be twice of the radius or 1.4 meters. But we have to calculate how many times the ball passes above the laser beam or through the laser beam. For that, we are given that the height of the laser beam, that is, if this is the laser beam is vertical, but the height given to us is the laser beam is situated at 0.5 meters. So we have to calculate whether that ball passes through the laser beam, above it or below it. For that matter, we need to identify the trajectory the ball is following when the laser beam is acting on it. That is, if I draw or if I have to calculate this x distance and I'm assuming that the height is 0.5 because we are given the laser beam's height is 0.5 meters. So if I have to calculate x in this scenario, it will be 0.7 square minus 0.5 square. So this will be equal to my x square, or my x turns out nearly equal to 0.5 meters. Hence the distance from the end point, that is this point and this point, will be equal to 0.7 minus x, or this will be equal to 0.7 minus 0.5 meters or 0.2 meters. Now please understand this thing carefully. If the ball passes above the laser beam, that is, to pass a ball above the laser beam, it will have to be at a distance more than 0.2 meter away from the point where ball touches the ground. This is the point where the ball touches the ground. So in order to pass above the laser beam, the ball should have this distance that we have calculated is 0.2. So over here we can see that it is not going to pass above the laser beam. It is going to pass below the laser beam. So for ball to pass above the laser beams, to continue to prove this condition true, the ball should have 0.2 meters distance from the point where it touches the ground. I hope this is clear. Now the ball passes below the laser beam, that is this condition to satisfy. The distance of the ball should be less than 2 meters. For here the distance should be greater than 0.2 meter. For here the distance should be less than 0.2 meters from the point from where the ball touches the ground. I hope you are able to visualize how these conditions have came, because at a distance of 1 meters the laser beam is situated. I hope this is clear. Okay, so using these two conditions, we will take this question forward. Now I have drawn a table so that we can answer this question carefully. Now this is a question which involves intensive calculation and a lot of iterations. Okay, we have to repeat same and same process time and again because there are 20 laser beams and there is no other method that can solve this question. There is one method which will involve the use of functions, but it will be too mathematical. So let us go by this practical approach. So in this column, that is ball bounce, we are given, I have written the range, that is from 0 to 1.4. The distance traveled by one time bounce is 1.4 meters. So this column deals with the range of distance that is covered, that is 0 to 1.4, 1.4 to 2.8. So interval is 1.4 meters because the distance covered is 1.4 meter per bounce. Now the laser beams within the range, now we are given that each laser beam is separated by 1 meters. So from 1 to 1.4 meter only laser L1 will be there. From 1.4 to 2.8 laser L2 will be there. From 2.8 to 4.2 two lasers will be there, which will be at a distance of 3 meters and 4 meters respectively. So similarly, I have given you all the laser beams that are in range with respect to the bouncing range. Now, using the conditions that we have discussed, whether that the distance is greater than 0.2 meters or less than 0.2 meters, we will identify whether the ball that is bouncing passes above the laser, below the laser, and if the distance is equal to 0.2 meters, it is going to pass through the laser beam. So for the first one, as discussed, we saw that the distance is greater than 0.2, hence it will pass above the laser beam. So after satisfying these conditions for 20 iterations, I am getting this table. So for the first question, we have to calculate the number of times the ball passes above the laser beam. So we will calculate it from here, that is L1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there are 12 instances wherein the ball will pass above the laser beam, and there are only 1 and 2 instances wherein the ball will pass below the laser beam. Hence the answer for our sub question 1 is 12 and answer for our sub question 2 is 2. That is, option B is the correct choice for our question number 1 and option A is the correct choice for sub question number 2. Two circles are drawn in such a way that smaller circle touches the bigger circle internally. Triangle ABC circumscribes the smaller circle. The two sides AC and BC of the triangle ABC intersect each other at the center of the bigger circle, while the third side is tangent to both the circles. So this side is going to be the one wherein the smaller circle is touching the inner circle. Side AC is extended to touch the bigger circle at point D such that AC and D are collinear, and length AD is given to us as 18 centimeters. If the radius of the bigger circle is 8 centimeters, then find the radius of the smaller circle. Now one suggestion from my point would be, always attempt the sums before watching the solutions straight ahead, because your attempt will make you realize the mistakes that you are committing while solving the question. And most importantly, do not look at the solution diagram before solving the question. These are the diagrams which I am using to explain the solutions. These are not present while you will have the questions in your actual papers. Okay, so try and draw the diagram before looking at the solution diagram. So over here we are given that two circles are touching each other internally. There is one side of triangle which is the third side of the triangle which circumscribes the inner circle, acts as a tangent, that is length AB, and we are given that the length AC and BC intersect each other at the center of the bigger circle, and we are given with the lengths and few other conditions. So after analyzing all these conditions, I will get this diagram, and we have to find the radius of the inner circle in this case. So let's start with the solution. We are given that length AD is equals to 18 centimeter. Length PD will be twice of it. Sorry, length AD is not 18, 8 centimeters. So length PD will be twice of it, that is twice of 8 will be equals to 16 centimeters. Length AP is equals to, let's start with the solution part. Length AD is given to us as 18 centimeters. Length PD will be twice of the radius, that is equal to twice of 8 centimeter, that is it will be 16 centimeters. Length AP will be the difference of these two, that is 2 centimeters. Now by applying tangent secant theorem, this is something that we have learnt in the concept video, tangent secant theorem, I can say that length AE square is equal to length AD multiplied by length AP. I hope this is clear. That is, this length square will be equal to length AD multiplied by length AP. Okay. So if I substitute the values, I will get length AE square as 18 multiplied by 2, or length AE will be 36 raised to half, that will be equal to 6 centimeters. So this is the first result that we will use further. Now since AF and AE are tangents, this is something that we are provided, these are the tangents, and they intersect and tangents to the smaller circle from the same point A. These are the tangents to the smaller circle which originate from the same point A. Hence the tangent segments will be of equal lengths. Hence length AF will be equal to length AE, and they will be equal, and their length will be of 6 centimeters. Now length AC is equals to length AP plus length PC, which is 2 plus 8 centimeters, or this will be equal to 10 centimeters. Similarly, I can find out length FC is equals to 10 minus length of AF, that is equal to 10 minus 6, or equal to 4 centimeters. Now again applying the tangent secant theorem, I will be able to say that length of FC square is equals to length CE multiplied by length CQ. Hence 16 will be equal to 8 multiplied by length CQ. Hence my length CQ turns out to be 2 centimeters. Now QE is equal to CE minus CQ, because they are collinear. This is something that we are provided. So this will be length QE will be equal to 6 centimeters, but QE is the diameter of the smaller circle, and I am requiring the radius of the smaller circle. Hence radius will be equals to 3 centimeters. That is my answer. ABCDE is a regular pentagon. O is a point inside the pentagon such that AOB is an equilateral triangle. What is angle OEA? Let us join the points, that is A, B and O, as we are given that they form an equilateral triangle. So this is an equilateral triangle, that is something we are provided with. And we have to calculate the measure angle OEA, that is this angle. We have to calculate this angle. Let this be equal to x degrees. Okay. Now for an regular pentagon, the internal angle is equal to 108 degrees. This is something that you know. Hence angle EAB is equal to angle EDC will be equal to 108 degrees, and angle OAB in this scenario is equals to 60 degrees because of the equilateral triangle. Hence angle EAO will be equals to 108 minus 60, that is 48 degrees. Okay. Now we know that AO is equals to OB is equals to AB, as the triangle is equilateral. Hence and we do know that AB is equals to AE because these are the sides of regular pentagon. All the sides of the regular pentagon are equal. Hence, triangle AEO is isosceles triangle because AO is equals to EA. This is something which we have proved right now. Now let's say angle AEO is equals to angle AOE. We have considered this angle to be x degrees, hence this angle will also be equals to x degrees. So let's say this will be equal to x degrees. I have written over here. The second angle is AOE over here, hence this angle will be x degrees. Sorry. Now if I consider triangle AEO, I can say that angle OAE plus 2x is equals to 180 degrees. Angle OAE is we found out as 48 degrees. So 48 plus 2x is equals to 180 degree, or my 2x turns out to be 132 degrees, or x is equals to 66 degrees, which in turn is our angle OEA, that is we need to find out, and hence option A is the correct choice. What is the ratio of the longest diagonal to the shortest diagonal in a regular octagon? So I have drawn a regular octagon over here, and each is having a length of A units. Now we have to calculate the ratio of the longest diagonal to the shortest one. So as you can see that the longest diagonal in this scenario will be the one which is joining the vertices that are oppositely joined, that is the one joining the two opposite vertices, that is AE or BF or CG or DH. This is the longest diagonal. Now let us start with that. So we will be finding AE in this scenario. So let us try to find it out. I have joined points A and D and dropped perpendicular from the vertices B and C respectively on the segment that is joining A and D, and the points are P and Q respectively. Okay, this is perpendicular that I have drawn. This is the construction that we have made in order to find out the length AE. We are finding out length AE first. Okay, so in this scenario I do know that AP is equals to QD because of the symmetry. I hope this is clear to all of you. Now if I apply Pythagoras theorem, I can say that A square is equal to BP square plus AP square. Now BP and AP are equal. Hence, I can say that A square is equals to twice of AP square, or my A is equal, or my AP is equals to A by root 2. This is our first finding. Now, AD is equal to AP plus PQ plus QD. But I know that AP is equals to QD and PQ will be equals to A because this forms a 90-degree rectangle. I hope this is clear. Hence my AD turns out to be twice of AP because AP is equals to QD, that is twice of A by root 2 plus A, that is equals to root 2A plus A. My AD turns out to be root 2A plus A. Let this be our second equation. Now I can again apply Pythagoras theorem and say that AE square is equals to AD square plus DE square. That is, I am finding this bigger diagonal over here. So this will be in triangle ADE, AD square plus DE square, that is this length square plus this length square will be equals to the diagonal square or the hypotenuse square, because this is also perpendicular. Hence, if I substitute the values, I will get A plus root 2A the whole square plus a square is equals to ae square, or my ae square turns out to be a square plus twice of a multiplied by root 2a plus 2a square plus a square, or after simplification I can simply say that my ae square will be equal to a square taken common 1 plus 2 root 2 plus 2 plus a square, that is ae square is equal to a square multiplied by 4 plus 2 root 2. So this is something that we needed to find out. Now the shortest diagonal in this scenario will be AC or CE. If I consider only this diagram originating from A, the shortest diagonal will be the points that is covering the nearest vertices, that is AC or CE in this scenario. I hope this is clear. So in order to find out the shortest diagonal, that is AC or CE, I can say that or apply the cosine rule over here. AC square is equal to AB square plus BC square minus twice of AB BC cos 135 degrees, because this angle is covered, the angle subtended is 135 degrees. On simplification I will get this as a square plus a square minus 2a square multiplied by minus 1 by root 2, because cos of 135 is negative of minus 1 by root 2, that is I am left with 2a square plus root 2a square, that is a square multiplied by 2 plus root 2. Now I have to find out the ratio between these two. So it will be, if I take the ratio of the squares, because we have the length in terms of squares, AE square by AC square is equals to a square multiplied by 4 plus 2 root 2 upon a square multiplied by 2 plus root 2. So if I take the square roots, I will be left with the ratio, that is I have to take the square root of this term, and this is equals to under root 2, that is option number D. Now another way to analyze an octagon, one thing that you need to remember is that for a regular octagon, internal angle is equals to 135 degree, external angle is equals to 45 degrees. This is something that you have to remember, or if you do not, you can apply the basic formulas that we have learned in the concept chapters. And if we draw perpendiculars, we get bunch of right angle triangles and isosceles right angle triangles. That is, if we drop a perpendicular, we get squares, because as you saw that this becomes a square, and right angle triangles. So in order to analyze this type of question, or octagon for that matter, if you drop a perpendicular, the octagon changes into right angles, triangles and squares. And similarly, a regular hexagon breaks into equilateral triangles. ABCDF is a regular hexagon inscribed inside a circle. If the shortest diagonal of the hexagon is of length 3 units, what is the area of the shaded region? That is, we need to calculate the area of this shaded region. Now if you look at this diagram carefully, this shaded region, we can get the area of this shaded region by taking, if you analyze the regions that are left after drawing a hexagon in a circle are all similar because they are symmetric. So area of this one region will be equal to area of the circle minus area of hexagon, is going to give me all the regions that are left, but there are 1 2 3 4 5 and 6 equal regions, and I have to calculate the area of only one shaded region. So it will be equal to area of the circle minus area of the hexagon divided by 6. Now this is something that was visible from the options as well, because and in all of the four options we were multiplying 1 by 6 by the bracket. Now we are given that the length of the shortest diagonal of the hexagon is equal to 3 centimeters. Now, as discussed in the previous question also, the length of the shortest diagonal or the shortest diagonal in a polygon is always made by joining the nearest vertices. That is, in this scenario we have considered two vertices that are similar, that is F and D. So we are given that the length FD in this case is equal to 3 centimeters. Now from the end, in the ending of the previous question, I suggested that whenever you are given a hexagon, it is always made up of equilateral triangles. Now how is it possible? Let me draw a single equilateral triangle over here. This is an equilateral triangle. This is one equilateral triangle. Suppose I draw another one and I keep on drawing 6 equilateral triangles. That is, if I connect all the diagonals, I can see that an hexagon is made up of 6 equilateral triangles and all of them are equal to each other when the hexagon is regular. So this is the property that we are going to use in this case. That is, if I use coincide these two figures, I can say that as all of this above I have given you that a hexagon is made up of 6 equilateral triangles. So I can say that triangle FOE and triangle EOD are equilateral, as you can see it from the above figure. Now let us utilize this fact. Now FD is equals to FP plus PD. Now FP and PD are the altitudes of equilateral triangle FOE and EOD respectively. That is, this is the altitude or side that is opposite to 60 degrees. Hence the length of FP and PD will be equal to, if I assume the equilateral triangle side to be equal to A, or even the length of each side of the hexagon equal to A, my FD, that is equals to, the shortest diagonal is 3 centimeters, FP will be equals to root 3 by 2 times the A square, because it is the side opposite to the 60 degrees or the length of the altitude of an equilateral triangle. Similarly PD will also be equal to root 3 by 2 A square, or my FD, that is the shortest diagonal, is equals to root 3A. If we equate it to 3 centimeters, that is 3 units that is given to us, I get my A equals to root 3, or the area of the circle or the radius of the circle in this scenario turns out to be root 3. Hence the area of the circle is equals to pi r square, that is root 3 square, minus area of the hexagon, that is equals to 6 times the area of the equilateral triangles. Length of area of equilateral triangle is given by root 3 by 4 multiplied by the side square, that is root 3 by root 3 the whole square, and dividing this entire equation by 6. So I am left with 3 pi, and this turns out to be 3 by 2. So this 3 multiplied by root 3 square is 9. So minus 9 root 3 by 2, multiplying this entire by bracket by 1 by 6 is my answer. That is option number 1.